Try and focus.
How do I do this? It's been a while. It has been a while. I am back to the YouTubes now. I've been on a little bit of a hiatus. I've had a lot of things happen in my personal life, and then I've also finished a massive project. I got my book written, and I'm working on getting her published. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but I've been called pleasantly persistent, and I am definitely persisting on that project. But anywho, I am back to the YouTubes. I feel like this is the perfect project for me to return back to the YouTubes on this little bit of a hiatus. Love this project because it proves what I've been saying for years, that sewing is so much more than sewing. And like I said, this project just demonstrates that beautifully. It is a memory bear. It is for a friend, a dear friend of mine. She has supported me through a lot of things over the years, and I was honored when she asked me to do this for her. It's actually for her boyfriend. His grandfather, who he was really close with, I mean, obviously, right? Like, it wouldn't be a project, like, if he wasn't close with his grandfather, passed about a year ago. And it's a shirt that of his grandfather's, obviously. I mean, I say all these things, and I'm just like, obviously, duh. I'm so eloquent with words. But anywho, so I was honored to be a part of this. It was his grandfather's shirt that I've made into a memory bear, and it demonstrates perfectly how sewing is so much more than sewing. I'm going to walk you through the process, give some tips and tricks along the way, and I'm just glad to be back. I am honored, as I said, to be a part of this project, and it's the perfect project for me to come back to the YouTubes after the hiatus that I've taken and the reasons for the hiatus, which I'm not going to get into. It's just not inspiring. Maybe one day. There's some silver linings. There's a lot of silver linings. But for now, we're going to go over a memory bear. To begin this project, I first did a test run. I mean, this is an important project, so I really wanted to get all those nuanced bits and pieces out of the way on some fabric that didn't really matter, right? This is Scrappy, named by my children, and a happy discovery. This is a wonderful way to use up all those bits of fabric that are too small for quilts or whatever, and stuffing the bear has proven to be a wonderful activity for my kiddos. So yeah, I think it's going to be like a thing that I just have. I have a little Scrappy going at all times. Anywho, then I carefully cut out the pattern, making sure to pay attention to the plaid pattern of the fabric. I also wanted to get in some details from the shirt, and I'll explain more about those details a little bit later on in the video. Due to the plaid pattern and having this particular teddy bear creation being so special, I basted everything together. That way the stripes, of the fabric would line up as accurately as I could get them. Even if you put in a bunch of pins, at least in my experience, the two pieces of fabric will smudge around a bit under the presser foot of a sewing machine. So basting is an important step in my humble opinion, but as I like to say, it is sewing, so you do you. Once I had all those bits basted, then it was time to machine sew the seams into place. Whether you go the basted or just straight to the machine sewing route, you'll leave a little gap in each piece. This gap is the entrance for the stuffing later on, so yeah, it's a little important to leave a gap there, right? Of course, trim up the seam allowances and clip those curves as necessary. And I spent a lot of time debating about this, but eventually decided to introduce another fabric for the center of the face, as well as those ears, the ears of the bear, but blah, blah, blah. I figured there was no way to match those stripes up, so my best bet would be to add a coordinating fabric. I stuffed those ears, basting that closed, applied them to the face, and then I was ready to baste the front of the head to its back. Oh, but time out for some machine sewing. This machine works so well, and then every once in a while I've got to stop to clean her, and I'm a bit spoiled. I'm a bit spoiled that I'm like, why can't she be self-cleaning? Is that too much to ask? Now then, here are some of those special bits. I wanted to include as much detail from the shirt as possible. Now the buttons, while they seem to be too big to fit proportionally on the size of Bear, there was this little embroidery bit that I put on one of the soles of the bear's feet, as well as this orange label that I put on the back of the other leg, kind of balancing out the two details, if you feel me, right? Oh, and a little trick is that you can clip around the soles prior to stitching, since it'll release those curves, making the sewing process easier. It'll just allow the fabric to lay down nicely, which makes sewing easier. So then, let's assemble everything. I'm grabbing the front of the bear's body, and the front is the front, since the back has these darts around the tush, while the front doesn't have any darts. I'm pinning the legs so they're about 1/2 inch from that center seam, obviously making sure the feet are pointed in the right direction. Backward legs would not be ideal. After pinning those legs so they're out of the way, then I join the front of the bear's body to its back, basting by hand first so that plaid pattern lines up as best as possible before joining the two together on my sewing machine. From there, I turn things right sides out, and I'm fairly happy with how accurate these stripes came together, right? Basting might seem like a time-consuming step, but it does go by fairly quickly, and even if it didn't, it is worth those extra bits to make sure special projects come together as best as possible. Now then, I'm joining the bear's arms to the ensemble by centering them on the side seams of the bear's body. For that last machine part, flip the bear's body so it's wrong sides out, and then the head so it's also wrong sides out, allowing the two to be joined together with right sides together and matching up the seams. Of course, I'm basting this together, and really this would be a good step to baste together regardless on how special or not your teddy bear happens to be, since this little neck seam is a really tiny area, meaning that if you take this to your machine using pins, basically you are guaranteed to just get poked a bunch by those pins. At least that is my experience, but what do I know? Now then, let's bring this sweet project to life. Seriously, stuff away. There was this little wooden tool in the stuffing bag, so I used that, but I am definitely a newbie to stuffing. I used a ton more than I thought in most areas, aside from the arms, since I like those to lay closer to the bear's body. Last but certainly not least, those gaps need to be closed, and I did that using the ladder stitch so those stitches would be hidden. I've been saying it for decades now, sewing is so much more than sewing.